Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The champagne tower hadn't even lost its first sparkle when Angela turned toward Melissa and said, just loud enough for the crowd to catch it, "We're heading out. Real fun starts downtown." I blinked, not sure I heard her right. "Excuse me?" I asked, stepping forward, still holding a half-cut slice of cake I'd spent the last hour getting right for her. Melissa, tall, smug, and already halfway through her second cocktail, shot me a smirk. "Relax, David. Don't be that guy." Angela turned, her silver heels clicking against the marble floor as she tried to breeze past me. "It's just a club, David. It's my birthday." I stepped into her path. "We're hosting a party, Angela. For you. At our house. With 100 people we paid to be here." Melissa laughed dryly. "And yet, here you are, acting like she's breaking parole. Back off." The guests nearby stopped mid-sip, frozen in awkward silence. Angela hesitated. I caught it. The flicker of guilt, the downward glance. But Melissa looped an arm around her like a handler with a puppet. "Don't you dare try to ruin this for me," Angela said sharply, her voice slicing through the hum of the crowd. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Ruin what? A party you walked out of? Melissa waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "Honestly, David, you're embarrassing yourself." Angela's expression flattened. "I'm going." She yanked her arm free from my loose grasp and walked out the front door, into the night. Melissa followed, laughing as she ordered an Uber with a flick of her thumb. The taillights vanished a minute later. The foyer was dead silent. Even the string quartet stopped playing. I looked at the guests, shrugged slightly, and said, "Enjoy the cake. It's German chocolate, her favorite." Or it was. Then I walked toward the back patio, past the fountains and glowing lights, jaw tight, but my spine straight. I wasn't angry. I was clear. Let them dance. Let them drink. Let her chase whatever thrill she thought she needed. Because in that exact moment, I felt something shift, not sadness, not fear. Just focus. See, I've spent years building something real, a business, a home, a future. And maybe, just maybe, this little birthday stunt was the best gift I never asked for. The kind that wakes you up. The kind that clears the fog. And the kind that lets you finally see what needs to be done. The morning light in Austin had a way of making everything look cleaner than it really was. But no amount of sunlight could bleach what happened the night before. I sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through the news, espresso machine humming behind me, when the front door opened. Angela waltzed in like she'd just run to the store for almond milk. She held 2 coffees, one balanced in each hand, and flashed that morning after smile. "I figured I owed you a peace offering," she said, voice light, as if the entire neighborhood hadn't witnessed her bolt from her own party with Melissa on her arm. I didn't move. "How was the club?" She blinked, then chuckled like I was being dramatic. "David, seriously?" She slid one of the cups toward me. "It was harmless. We danced, had some laughs. No crime in letting loose once in a while." "Harmless?" I repeated slowly, taking the espresso but not drinking it yet. "Walking out of your own birthday, in front of family, friends, clients, vendors. You call that harmless?" Angela leaned her hip against the counter, still trying for breezy. "Melissa said it would be good for my energy. She didn't mean anything by it. You're blowing this out of proportion." I finally took a sip. Calm. Controlled. "Then let Melissa cover your energy from now on." Her brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" I stood and walked past her to the drawer where we kept our checkbooks, receipts, and financial folders. I pulled out my laptop instead, opened it, and typed something in. Quick, efficient. Angela turned around as I sat back down. "David, what are you doing?" "Securing the accounts," I said without looking at her. "You'll find your card no longer works as of now." There was a pause. Then, a sharp exhale. "You're joking." I glanced up at her, dead serious. "Do I look like I'm joking?" Angela set the coffee down hard enough for the lid to pop off. "You're punishing me? Like a child?" "No," I replied, tapping my espresso cup with one finger. "I'm setting a boundary. You left your own party. You humiliated me. And for what? Melissa's idea of fun?" Her voice jumped a pitch. "It was my birthday, David. God forbid I want one night to feel like myself again." I gave her a look. "If you need to escape your life that badly, maybe it's not the life that's broken." Her jaw dropped. "Are you even hearing yourself? You're treating me like some gold-digging teenager." "No," I said again, slow and clear. I'm treating you like someone who made a choice, and I'm making one in return. Angela's arms crossed tightly over her chest. So now I'm supposed to just what? Beg for allowance? Is that the game here? No game. I rose again, espresso cup in hand. You've got your own income. Use it. If Melissa thinks she's your savior, she can help you cover brunch, bags, and bottle service. She looked stunned. Her voice cracked, just a little. I can't believe you're doing this. I shrugged. Believe it. The silence after that wasn't loud. It was sharp, clean, like the air right before a storm. Angela stared at me, blinking hard, searching for some thread to pull that might unravel me. But there was none. She threw her hands in the air. This is unbelievable. I make one decision, one. And you lock me out of our accounts? Who even does that? I set the cup down and turned fully to face her. Someone who's done being embarrassed in his own home. Someone who's tired of bankrolling your rebellion. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Anger warred with shock on her face. Then she grabbed her phone, tapped furiously, and frowned. She looked up again. You're serious? You actually did it? Yep. She shook her head slowly. I don't even know who you are right now. That's funny, I said, stepping away from the island. Because I just figured out who I am, and what I won't tolerate anymore. Angela stood frozen by the fridge, breathing hard, staring at me like I was a stranger. And maybe I was. Maybe the version of me she thought she had on a leash didn't live here anymore. The kitchen felt colder than usual. Not in temperature, but in tone. Something unspoken settled between us. A change neither of us could pretend didn't happen. And I realized right then, this was no longer a marriage on pause. It was a line drawn in granite. We weren't partners anymore. We were opponents. That afternoon I was in my office, sorting contracts into neat little stacks, pretending my world wasn't tilting, when my phone buzzed. Brian's name lit up the screen. He wasn't the type to call unless something mattered. I answered. Yeah. His voice dropped low. You need to get downtown. The Crescent Room. Now. I leaned back in my chair. What's going on? Just get here, he said. And keep your cool. Keep your cool. That always meant trouble. 20 minutes later, I pushed through the Crescent Room's heavy double doors. Velvet curtains, soft jazz, low conversations. Everything felt intentionally exclusive. Brian waved me over from a corner table, his eyes sharp. What's this about? I asked. He nodded subtly toward the far booth. Look. I followed his line of sight. And there she was. Angela. Laughing. Leaning forward. Twirling a straw in a drink like she was auditioning for a commercial. Across from her sat someone I recognized only through holiday cards and forced neighborhood barbecues. Jason, Melissa's husband. He was relaxed, smiling, leaning way closer than any friendly conversation required. Brian whispered, They've been here at least an hour. Walked in together. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. I just let a small smirk tug at the corner of my mouth. It's funny, I murmured. Melissa dragged her to the club last night. But this morning, she's sitting cozy with Melissa's husband. Seems the real party had assigned seating. Brian exhaled. Man, I knew she was drifting, but this? You want me to call my guy? Discreet, fast, thorough. He'll follow her, track the details, nothing messy. I kept watching the booth. Angela touched Jason's wrist, laughing at something he said. It wasn't romantic, yet, but it was intimate in a way she'd never admit in daylight. No, I said finally. Brian turned to me. No, I'm not hiring anyone. He frowned. David, come on. If things get uglier, they already are. I sat back, crossed my arms. But I'm not hiding behind a stranger with a camera. If there's truth to confront, I'll confront it myself. Brian stared. You sure? Because this looks bad. I nodded once. I prefer my justice face to face. Across the room, Angela suddenly stiffened. She hadn't seen me. She'd seen a server who recognized me and whispered her way. Her shoulders tightened in that subtle, guilty way I'd come to know too well. Jason followed her gaze, scanning the room. I didn't look away, didn't hide, didn't move. I just raised my glass to them with the smallest, calmest nod. Brian muttered, You're playing a dangerous game. Not a game, I said. Just clarity. Angela whispered something to Jason, grabbed her bag, and hurried toward the exit, pretending she wasn't running. Jason stayed seated, rubbing the back of his neck. Brian sighed. So what now? I stood. Now nothing. She'll come home eventually. And when she does, she'll talk. And if she doesn't? I gave him a look that carried more certainty than anger. Then she'll make her choice without saying a word. We stepped out into the crisp Austin evening, city lights flickering across glass towers. I felt strangely calm, steady, not broken, not shaken, just awake. The kind of awake that only arrives after someone shows you exactly who they're becoming. The smell of mesquite and grilled corn hung thick in the backyard air, the string lights overhead casting a soft amber glow. It should have been a peaceful evening, just family, neighbors, a few coworkers with their spouses, chatting over paper plates and lemonade. Angela had been unusually cheerful all evening, floating from guest to guest like a politician. Fake warmth, polished charm. I didn't bite. I was by the grill, tongs in hand, flipping ribs, when she raised her voice just enough to cut through the music. So, I won't be staying too late. I've got plans after this. A few heads turned. Conversations paused. Plans? Her cousin asked. Another party? Angela smiled sweetly, sipping her wine. Something like that. I've got a date. Melissa, lounging nearby in her bright floral dress, cackled louder than necessary. Ooh, girl, you are wild tonight. I didn't flinch. I turned the ribs once more, then slowly set the tongs down. I wiped my hands on the towel hanging from my belt and walked over to where Melissa was standing, still sipping her drink and watching Angela like a proud sister. Melissa, I said calmly, did Angela already tell you, or should I? She blinked. Tell me what? Angela's smile faltered. David, don't. The patio went quiet. I kept my tone neutral. That I saw you yesterday, Angela. Downtown. Booth in the back. With Jason. Melissa's laugh caught in her throat. She looked at Angela, confused, then back at me. What is he talking about? Angela straightened her shoulders. It wasn't what it looked like. I cut in, still addressing Melissa. They were laughing, holding hands across the table at the Crescent Room. You know, that private place Jason swore he hated? Melissa stepped back slightly. Jason. Her voice cracked. You were with my husband? Angela's face flushed. Melissa, calm down. Nothing happened. It was just lunch. Then why'd you run when you saw me? I asked. That silence. It weighed more than the Texas humidity. Melissa turned to Jason, who had just stepped out of the house with a beer in hand, and froze mid-step. Is this true? She barked. You and Angela? Jason looked between us, then at Angela. His jaw tightened. I was going to talk to you, he said, voice low. This weekend. Oh, that's rich, Melissa spat. You were going to talk? After you sneak off with my best friend behind everyone's back? Jason rolled his eyes. It's been over for months, Mel. You know that. You just don't want to admit it. That's when everything unraveled. Melissa's voice rose in pitch. Don't pin this on me. You, she turned on Angela, you snake. I let you into my house. I defended you to everyone. And you're slipping around with my husband? Angela raised her hands, panicking. Melissa, I swear, Jason came to me. I didn't mean for this to happen. Oh, please, Melissa shouted. You meant it the second you slid into his booth with that fake little smile of yours. Guests started quietly backing away. A few made excuses to head inside. Jason crossed his arms. I'm done, Melissa. I've already talked to a lawyer. I'm moving out next week. The words hit like a slap. Melissa just stood there, eyes wide, stunned and trembling. You're what? She whispered. Don't act shocked, he muttered. We've both been living in denial. I just beat you to the truth. Melissa turned to Angela, voice shaking with fury. You destroyed 2 marriages in 1 week. That's got to be some kind of record. Angela tried to step forward. Melissa, I didn't. Don't, she snapped. Don't say a word. Don't even look at me. I watched the scene unfold without saying another word. Because I didn't need to. They'd built their own wreckage. I just lit the match that let everyone finally see the smoke. As the backyard emptied out and the lights above us flickered in the breeze, I walked back to the grill. The ribs were still perfect. Dinner was served. The backyard had gone silent, save for the soft hum of the string lights still swaying above abandoned plates and half-empty glasses. One by one, the last guest slipped through the gate until it was just me, the faint smell of grilled ribs, and the lingering echo of the explosion that had just torn 2 marriages in half. I was wiping down the counter when Angela finally stepped forward from the shadows of the patio door. David, can we talk? Her voice was soft, almost trembling. It didn't match the defiant tone she'd used earlier, not by a mile. I set the towel down. Talk. Now. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean for tonight to get so crazy. Melissa she blew things way out of proportion. I raised an eyebrow. You announced a date at a family barbecue. Then your little lunch partner got thrown under a spotlight. I'd say the proportions were accurate. David, please. She stepped closer. I made mistakes. I know I did. But the crowd, you humiliated me. I let out a sharp breath. You humiliated yourself. I just stopped covering for you. Her eyes glistened. I'm trying to apologize. It's too late. She flinched, like the words were a physical hit. What does that mean? It means the fallout already started. You decided to make a public spectacle, Angela. Now you get the public consequences. I'm not stepping between you and the mess you created. She stared at me, stunned. You're actually punishing me? No, I said, turning off the grill light. I'm stepping away from someone who thinks disrespect is a sport. She stood frozen for a moment before her composure shattered. I don't want this to get worse, she whispered. I don't. It already has. Her chest rose sharply, panic creeping in. We can fix it. If you just stop being cold. I cut her off. Cold would imply I still feel something. That did it. Her face crumbled. Without another word, she pushed past me into the house. Upstairs, I heard drawers slam, hangers clatter, the thud of shoes thrown into a suitcase. I stayed at the top of the stairs, leaning against the wall, watching her pack like someone fleeing a storm they created. She saw me in the doorway. Are you seriously not going to say anything? She cried. Not even now. I kept my arms folded. What is there to say? I'm your wife. You were. She gasped, clutching a handful of clothes. You can't just give up like this. I didn't give up, I said quietly. You walked out twice. Once at the party, and again when you decided your choices didn't need consequences. She zipped the suitcase with trembling hands. Where am I supposed to go? That's your next decision. Make one you can live with. A long, broken breath escaped her. She grabbed her bag, brushed past me in the hallway, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I never thought you'd turn into this, she whispered. And I never thought you'd turn into someone I couldn't respect. Her knees buckled at that, but she kept moving. Downstairs, the taxi headlights spilled through the windows. She hurried into the back seat without looking back. The door shut with a dull, final thud. The engine hummed. The car pulled away. Outside, the night was still, eerily still. No wind, no voices, no lingering warmth from the hours before. Just quiet. A quiet that wasn't sad. A quiet that wasn't peaceful. A quiet that meant something had ended and something else had begun. The next morning, downtown Austin moved like nothing had happened. Sunlight bouncing off glass towers, electric scooters humming along sidewalks, the cafe smell drifting through open doors. But inside me, the gears had already shifted. I didn't feel bitter. I felt surgical, focused. Vincent was already waiting when I arrived. Same corner table he always claimed, sleeves rolled to his elbows, reading the journal like a man who still preferred ink over screens. He looked up, then stood to greet me. Well, the ghost returns. I shook his hand. Not a ghost. Just Ben. Rethinking my calendar. Vincent smirked. I read between lines better than most. You didn't come here to catch up. No, I said, taking my seat. I came here for something specific. He slid my coffee across the table. Shoot. I stirred the cream slowly, watching the swirl fade into brown. I need Angela released from the firm. Quietly. No scene. No press. Just clean. Vincent's expression didn't change, but I saw the wheels turning behind his eyes. Marketing, he said. Under Jenna's team. Correct. She's technically a contractor, not salaried. Easier to cut. I nodded. That's why I placed her there years ago. Options. Vincent leaned back in his chair, studying me. You sure? She's not coming back to our house, I said plainly. There's no point pretending she should represent mine. He exhaled slowly. You always were clean with your cuts. Cold, but clean. I raised an eyebrow. You saying I'm heartless? No, he said, shaking his head. I'm saying I watched you build a life around someone who didn't deserve your stability. And I always wondered when you'd stop covering her mistakes. I sipped my coffee, then looked him square in the eye. So you'll do it? Vincent gave a single nod. Jenna's got the paperwork template. I'll draft a notice. Severance included, light, but fair. No drama, I said again. It's not vengeance. It's alignment. He gave a soft chuckle. You always did talk like a spreadsheet when things got personal. I smiled faintly. Keeps me from punching walls. He looked down at his coffee, then back up at me, quieter now. I never envied your position, David. Big house, nice cars, trophy wife. From the outside, it looked clean. But I saw the corners. I saw how much you covered for her. Covered. I repeated. Her lateness. Her spending. Her way of stepping into rooms like she didn't need to know anyone's name. You always smoothed it out. Like it was just noise to manage. I didn't answer right away. Because he was right. You'll get the signed form within the hour, he said at last, finishing his drink. And if she tries to push back, I'll remind her the marketing department doesn't negotiate loyalty. I met his gaze. Thanks, Vince. I know it's a weird ask. He stood, placing his napkin on the table. Nah, it's overdue. Consider it a professional favor. As we left the cafe, the sunlight didn't feel quite as warm, but the air felt clearer. Like one more weight had come off. I wasn't out for revenge. I just wanted the noise gone. And finally, it was starting to quiet down. It was nearly 9 p.m. when the door flew open. Angela's heels struck the hardwood like gunshots, and in her right hand, she clutched a wrinkled letter like it had been strangled the whole ride over. You think this is funny? She snapped, holding the page up like a warrant. You think you can just erase me? I didn't flinch. I leaned against the doorway of the study, sipping from a tumbler of water. Calm. Still. I didn't erase you, I said. I just closed a door you no longer belong behind. Her eyes blazed. You had me fired. From your own company. I raised an eyebrow. Our company? You've never worked a day in the trenches. That marketing role, I gave it to you. Because I thought it might help you build something. She stepped closer, voice rising. You blindsided me. Jenna didn't even have the decency to call. Just an email. A severance check like I'm some temp. I asked them to keep it respectful. I said, voice steady. I wanted it clean. Quiet. You should be grateful for that. Grateful? She echoed, her voice cracking. You just cut me out of my job. You walked out of our marriage first. She stood there, breathing hard, dress still creased from wherever she came from. The letter in her hand trembled. You're really doing this, aren't you? I'm not doing anything that wasn't earned. Angela's lip curled, but she stopped herself from speaking. For a moment, she just stared at me, as if seeing something that hadn't been there before. Then her voice softened. Just slightly. I'm not like Melissa. I tilted my head. No, you're quieter about the damage you cause. That hit harder than I expected. She blinked, lips parting, but the words didn't come. Her gaze fell to the letter again. What am I supposed to do now? She asked, voice hollow. You've taken everything. I finished my drink and set it down gently on the table beside me. I didn't take anything, I said. I just stopped giving. She looked up slowly. So what, this is it? I'm supposed to just vanish? I stepped forward, just enough to close the distance. Ask your new partner, I said. Maybe he's hiring. The silence that followed was absolute. Angela's jaw trembled slightly, her fingers still gripping the letter like it was the last string to hold on to. But she had no comeback. Not this time. She turned away, slowly, and walked to the door without another word. No threats. No tears. Just silence, and the soft, defeated sound of heels tapping back down the front steps. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of something better. 3 days later, I sat across from her again. But this time, it wasn't at our kitchen island or in a whisper-filled hallway. It was in a conference room on the 15th floor of a sleek downtown legal building. No candles, no music, just 2 attorneys, a pitcher of water, and a stack of paperwork thicker than most novels. Angela sat on the other side of the long oak table, dressed to intimidate. High collar, impeccable makeup, that same tight jawline she used to deploy when negotiating designer returns. But her eyes? They gave her away. Behind the gloss, there was something else, desperation wrapped in pride. Her lawyer, a gray-haired man with perfectly centered glasses and a soft voice, opened the meeting with a kind nod. Let's begin. He pulled out her proposed settlement. I didn't even blink when I saw the numbers. Angela leaned forward like she was presenting a final offer on a house. Given our lifestyle and the time I've invested into the image of your company, I cut in, calm as ever. You were a name on a profile page, Angela. Her lawyer cleared his throat. Let's keep this civil. David, stay sharp. Stay factual. He flipped through the pages. So, he said carefully, our client is requesting monthly support, partial equity in Hunter Advisory, and retention of the vacation property in Sedona. My lawyer, Greg, sat beside me quietly, hands folded. He didn't even touch the folder. I leaned forward slightly. Go ahead, Greg. Greg opened our copy of the prenuptial agreement. It was signed 11 years ago. Notarized. Witnessed. Ironclad. Clause 4C. Greg began, voice clipped, states that in the event of divorce, neither party is entitled to shared business assets unless jointly purchased. Clause 6A confirms that your client waived any claim to spousal support, as the marriage did not result in children or a demonstrated period of financial dependency. Angela's lawyer glanced at her. Did you both sign this? Yes, I said, meeting Angela's eyes. You insisted on it. Her lawyer adjusted his glasses, reading faster now. It's thorough. Greg closed the folder. And valid. So unless your client is claiming duress at the time of signing, this document stands. Angela's lips parted, but she said nothing. Her lawyer cleared his throat. We might consider challenging in open court. You can't, I said quietly. That's your right. Angela finally snapped, slamming her palm against the table. Then we will. I didn't flinch. Won't change the math. The room went still. Angela looked around like the walls might collapse in her favor. But they didn't. She slumped back in her chair, the fight draining from her shoulders. Her lawyer sighed. Angela, even if we litigate, the judge will default to the contract. The best we can do is request minor concessions. She blinked hard, jaw set. You said this wouldn't happen, she whispered, almost to herself. No, I replied. You said it wouldn't. I just stopped correcting you. For a moment, the air in the room turned heavy, like everyone could hear the weight of her crumbling expectations. Then, quietly, she folded the proposal back into her leather folder, not saying another word. Greg leaned over. We'll draft final language by Friday. Angela nodded, her hand still clenched on the table. And just like that, the battle ended with paperwork, not fireworks. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. Because this wasn't about winning. It was about clarity. And clarity, unlike love, comes with proof. Still here? Give this video a like, it really helps. I heard the knock before I saw the car. It wasn't casual, it was frantic, unrhythmic, desperate. When I opened the door, Melissa stood there, unrecognizable. Hair pulled back with one broken clip, makeup smudged from either a long night or a long cry, probably both. Her blazer was half-buttoned, and her purse strap hung by a single thread. David, she gasped, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Please tell me you saw something. I shut the door, but didn't move closer. What are you talking about? She turned to me, hands trembling. Jason's leaving me. Like, full on gone. Bags packed, lawyer called, locks changed. I didn't even see it coming. And he's already shifting accounts. He's cutting me off. I stared at her. What do you want from me? She dropped her bag to the floor and clutched her arms. You were there that night at the club. You saw them together. Angela and Jason. I know you did. If I can prove he was emotionally cheating, maybe financially, too, I can fight back. You could testify. Say it on record. No, I said. Melissa blinked. No? What, why not? I folded my arms. Because you're asking me to stretch a moment into a narrative that benefits you. That's not truth. It's strategy. And I'm done being someone else's cleanup crew. She gawked at me like I'd betrayed her. I defended you, she said, voice rising. I told Angela to stay with you. I said you were boring, sure, but solid. And this is how you pay me back? I didn't bite. I never asked for your defense, Melissa. Her breathing grew jagged. He's liquidating everything. Stocks, savings. He moved money into an LLC I've never heard of. I have nothing. I need help. I can't help you, I said flatly. I have no evidence. No paperwork. Nothing admissible. And I'm not inserting myself into your divorce. You're protecting him, she shouted. You and Jason always had that smug loyalty thing. Well, guess what? He's scum. He's leaving me for someone who can't even tell the difference between a spreadsheet and a salad fork. I stayed silent. That made it worse. You're all the same, she snapped. Cold. Calculating. Heartless men who cut women loose once you're done using us for dinner parties and Instagram likes. She stepped into the kitchen, eyes scanning like a cornered animal. You sit here in your perfect house, drinking your fancy coffee, thinking you're above the rest of us. Then her hand reached for a plate on the counter. And before I could say a word, She flung it across the room. It shattered against the floor. "Melissa," I said sharply. She grabbed a glass next. "You have no idea what it feels like to be thrown away." The glass exploded against the fridge door. I didn't yell. I didn't chase her. I just stood with my arms crossed, watching as she stormed through the kitchen, knocking a bowl off the island, cracking a mug, hurling insults between each crash. "You think you're composed? You're empty," she screamed. "You think silence makes you strong? It makes you alone. No one's coming to fix your precious life." The neighbors must have heard. It only took 5 minutes before I saw flashing lights through the window. She was mid-rant when the knock came. 2 officers stepped inside with calm urgency. "Ma'am," one said, "you need to come with us." Melissa whirled on me. "You called them?" "No," I said. "The walls are thin. You made yourself heard." She tried to shake the officers off, but they gently restrained her wrists. "I trusted you, David," she yelled as they led her toward the door. "I told you things I never told anyone. You're just like him." I didn't answer, just followed them to the door and watched her disappear into the night. One of the officers turned to me. "Do you want to press charges?" I shook my head. "No. She's already lost everything. Let that be enough." The door shut softly behind them. I looked around the kitchen. Broken glass glittered on the tile. My espresso mug lay in 2 clean halves near the baseboard. I didn't move to clean it up. Not yet. I just stood there in the center of it all, watching the pieces reflect the overhead light, and knew this was the last of the chaos I didn't ask for. And somehow, the silence that followed felt like a beginning, not an ending. The courtroom was half empty when the judge read the decision. Angela never showed. No attorney. No objection. Not even a courtesy delay request. Just silence. Greg leaned toward me as the judge flipped through the paperwork. "That's it." Her side waved response by absence. "This ruling will stand." I nodded once. Final. The court awarded me full retention of the house, the investment portfolio, and all company assets previously under joint review. The prenup held. Every clause, every safeguard I once thought was paranoid, turned out to be protection. The gavel dropped with a soft clack. Outside, the sky was painted in late afternoon gold. No crowd. No reporters. Just the breeze tugging at my jacket and the sound of someone else's life coming apart. Quietly, cleanly, completely. I didn't feel joy, but I felt done. That night, back home, I sat on the deck behind the house. Same place I used to watch Angela host book clubs she never read for, laughing in circles she never cared about. I had a bourbon in hand, ice just beginning to melt. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "You're not going to believe this. Check your email." Forwarded a message from a friend in Madrid. I opened the attachment. A grainy photo popped up. Angela, standing at a European airport baggage claim. Sunglasses too large, coat too expensive. Right beside her, Jason. Jason, Melissa's now ex-husband. Brian followed up with another message. Word is, they're in Spain. Jason liquidated his accounts before the split. Melissa's lawyer can't trace a dime. She's stuck, working part-time. Might lose her apartment. I stared at the screen for a long moment. 2 people who thought they could outrun consequence ran straight into each other. Angela had burned the house down only to build another fire with someone who already played with matches. I lifted my glass. To irony, I said aloud. Then took a slow sip, the bourbon sharp and warm. The wind moved through the trees, calm and even. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to look over my shoulder. A week passed. No calls. No apologies. No surprises. Just the quiet aftermath of a storm that had torn through 4 lives and finally moved on. I was in my office early that Monday, sunlight creeping across the floorboards, files stacked neatly beside my laptop, when Greg forwarded me a news article. American businessman detained in Barcelona over massive U.S. debt fraud investigation. There was a blurred photo beneath the headline, but I didn't need clarity. Jason. Apparently, the money he liquidated wasn't just marital property. It included a few clever investments tied to shared accounts under false business names. When Melissa's lawyers started digging, federal agencies picked up the scent. He was arrested trying to fly from Spain to Greece. Alone. No mention of Angela in the arrest record. But the second article answered that. Runaway couple splits overseas. Sources say woman returned to U.S. After funds dried up, Angela came back. Not to our city. Not to our home. She was living with her older sister in rural Missouri, helping raise 3 kids under 10. No car, no job. Her sister posted a photo of the family dog's birthday on social media, and there she was in the background, ponytail, hoodie, cake knife in hand. I stared at the image for a long time. Angela, who once laughed at women who stayed home, was now folding laundry in someone else's house. No club nights, no boutique orders, just silence and chores and a life she never imagined for herself. Melissa? I heard through a mutual friend she'd been couch surfing until a friend let her crash in a converted garage apartment. She was working 2 jobs, retail and night shifts at a call center. That same friend told me Melissa had started therapy. I hope that part's true, because some people still have time to turn around. But as for me, I didn't need revenge, didn't need headlines or public shaming. I just needed distance and time. Now I had both. I sat back in my leather chair, sunlight warming the side of my face, and let out a slow, quiet breath. My phone buzzed, calendar alert for a meeting. I silenced it, then reached for my coffee. Before I took the first sip, I looked out the window, not thinking about what I'd lost, but about what I'd stopped carrying. Because not every debt needs to be collected. Some just settle themselves. Eventually. And that was the end of the story. I still think about Melissa sometimes, how she stormed into my house, broke half my kitchen, and screamed for someone to save her instead of saving herself. So let me ask you, did she do the right thing by coming to me for help, or was it already too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to know how you see it. And hey, if this story hit you somewhere real, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got more coming.